Every day it's a challenge. So yeah, um, if it's not one thing, it's another. So every day it's a challenge for me as a survivor, um, of this trauma, that traumatic event that happened. Yeah. So I went to college and I decided that I would go in the teaching field, and still be able to help people and help, families in that sense. So um, I was a educator for 17 years. So I did what I could for those 17 years. It was very fulfilling and very rewarding in the sense where, um, you go in and some of these kids don't even have a father figure. Um, so you played that role, and sometimes, their mothers were busy working as well. So, for the single parents, so you, probably the only person that they come into contact that, that cared for them. So it was very fulfilling and very rewarding in that sense. Yeah. We would hear of other events. We would hear, Sandy Hook, Columbine, and you hear those stories, and you're like, it'll never happen here. We're a small community. We're, you know, we know families, and we know each other. If we don't know them personally, we may know a grandparent, aunt, uncle, something. Um, and so by knowing those other people, or you know you never think of anybody, that's crazy, or that's thinking about doing something like this, or so when we hear about the other things, it was like, oh, it'll never happen here. um, and yeah, so it was just a thought that you would do, and it would just go away so fast, because you never thought that it would happen here. Yeah. No, not him. Um, not, I've never met him. I never knew who he was. I I didn't know, like, him at all. Like, I he worked at a fast food restaurant, which I never really went to. But I knew grandma and I knew mom, but I didn't know him. Well, what happened that day? I mean, um, we were in the classroom, and it was like any other normal day, except that that day we had award ceremonies, and you know, it's like I had done this for 16, 17 years, closing out the school year, and it was just just a normal day. That week was planned to be, uh, chill out and be relaxed, and do fun things, and create happy memories with the kids, and them with each other. And so yeah, they were happy and excited because they were going to get awards that day. So we went to the award ceremony, um, and they were happy that their parents were there to see them get an award. Some made the AB honor roll, and some got other awards. Um, and yeah, so we did that, and um, we said goodbye to they said goodbye to their parents, and some of them went home, and so we headed back to the classroom, and just we went back to our activity. They were watching a movie, and I was working on grades, and I was uh, inputting the last grades that I needed to input. End of the year stuff that we had to do as teachers. Check attendances and stuff like that. So we were back, and then all of a sudden it's just like you hear something, but you're not too sure what it is. You don't associate your your area or your school with guns, and so that's the last thing that crosses your mind is that that's a gun and that's going off. The first thought to me, like, there was loud bangs, and I'm like, okay, maybe they're doing something in the other classrooms, that a fun activity that's is, they're hitting something, or like, just a loud bang, right? So you hear several of those, and then they stop, and I'm like, okay. So I keep on working, and it just never crosses my mind that it's a gun, right? So I go back. I'm working, and the kids are watching TV, and then as the bangs and got louder and closer, um, one of my students was asking me, like, what's going on, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I was confused. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Um, and so I look up, and you know like, see things like falling, so like sheetrock, and that's when I told myself, you know what, that's a gun, that's loud, and it's going through walls. So that's when I told my students, let's go, like lockdown, let's go into our places, and let's go to where we practice all the time. And so as we're doing that, and I'm about to get into my position where I stand, where I can still see the door, but they can't see me. He had already entered my classroom, and I only saw a shadow, because he was wearing black, and the lights were out, so I could just see like a shadow. But as I see the shadow like that, and I'm trying to get into my spot, I get shot. I get shot, and that it was so powerful that it knocks me down to the ground, and that was just on my arm, you see. So I fall down, and he comes around and gets to my area where my desk was at, and he shoots under the table where um, where we had told the kids, where I had told the kids, to go. Um, so, like I said in my first interview, I feel that this practice is not right. We set them up to be sitting ducks, and if I could have told them to run out the door, I they probably would have been able to survive. Um, so with that, just laying on the floor and knowing that he has shot under the desks, under the table, um, I know that some of my kids are hurt, or dying or dead already. And so I lay there, and I had told my kids to act like they were asleep, when I had told them to go under the table. So I myself was hurt in the arm, and I, had just so much pain that I just stayed there and said, told myself I need to act dead too. Um, because if I move, the kids are gonna think it's okay to move, and you know, there's no telling if he had hit everybody. So I told myself to act like I was dead as well. Um, as I'm laying there, he starts to uh, play with my blood that's coming out of my arm. I don't think he realized that it was my arm that was hurt. I think because I landed on top of it because there was so much pain, um, and it was coming out to the side. So as I laid there, I could open my eyes, to a point where I could see the floor and I could see the puddle of blood coming out. So yeah, so he's splashed blood on my face, and he did he spilled my water. Like I had a cup on my desk that he spilled on my back. It was very cold. Um, I think he was just waiting for me to flinch or do something or react, and I just I just never did. I you know just knew that if I did move or I did, I would probably be worse off. So um, he also got my cell phone because I was getting a lot of phone calls and texts at the time, and that's when he placed that on my back and dropping it on my back and picking it up and dropping it, picking up and dropping it, um, and to see if I would just flinch or if I would just move at all. But I never did. So the only thing that I was doing at that time was just you know praying and hoping that he would walk away from me, and that he would not shoot the phone because it was ringing and stuff like that. So yeah, and so after that, I mean, I could hear him um, putting stuff on the table also, which sounded like empty magazines, um, because they were metal, but they sounded hollow. And so I just thought he's changing the magazine on the gun. And so we just laid there, and then as I laid there, I mean, we waited for a while, and which seemed for a long time, and then um, I could hear like negotiating with the police officer, with the officer that was outside, I guess, telling him that for him to come out, uh, because they wanted to talk to him. And so I thought at that time, I thought, yes, they have found us. They know that he's in here, um, and a sense of rescue that we were going to be okay, um, that we were going to be okay and we were going to make it. Um, then again, I didn't hear any talking. I then thought to myself, you know what, we've been left behind. They don't know he's in here, and they're probably off going to other classes, other parts of the school. Um, and we're just here. We're going to be left here with him, and, we're going to die. We're dead. Um, so I laid there, and I don't recall ever blacking out, but uh, I just know that it was for a long time, and I just waited there and waited there, and you know, just hearing him walk, in the classroom, Um, Hearing the blinds, he was looking outside, and just things like that, and I could hear that he was far away, so that kind of gave me a sense of relief that he was not too close to us. And then um, I heard the officers again, and they talked to him again, like come out, and then I got the sense again that they were gonna finally come in and rescue us. And then again, I didn't hear anything anymore, and so we just waited and waited, and I prayed, um, you know, and just laid there, just laid there, and I felt myself getting weaker, and just there was just no hope at that time. A sense of abandonment. I didn't hear my students, so I just said and thought to myself that they were probably gone by now. Um, and so, yeah, so then I just laid there in pain. Um, and then one of the students from the other classroom um, talked, and I could hear her, clearly. And she said, officers, come in here, we're in here. And um, he went over there and he shot again. And I didn't hear her no more. So then I said, he, he's killed her. He's killed her, and there's just there's nobody alive anymore. I thought she was the only one left alive. And I just thought, you know, everybody's dead. Everybody's dead, and I'm gonna die here. And that's it. I just laid there and just hoping, and praying. I think I prayed the whole time. And then as I laid there, I could hear that they were coming in because I heard like the banging of the metal of desks and chairs. Um, I'm familiar with that sound of desks, and metal hitting each other. And I thought to myself, yes, we're gonna be rescued. We're gonna be saved. Um, and so I just closed my eyes because I thought, if I don't make it because of a stray bullet or they shoot in my area, you know, just God, just take me. I just said, God, take me, and I just closed my eyes really tight, and all I heard was just a lot of gunfire, and then it stopped, and I knew that something had gone, you know, somebody was dead because that was a lot of gunfire, and the next thing I heard was, you know, a man say, "Get up if you're alive. Get up if you're alive. Talk." And with my right arm, I pushed myself up, and I said, "I can't get up." You know, oh, because the part that I left out a little while ago was um, after the second time that they had negotiated with him, he shot me in the back and shot again under the table. So yeah, so I had a gunshot on my back and my arm. So when I pushed myself up, I couldn't move because of the gunshot on my back and of course my arm. So what? So when I saw the man, he was dressed as a border patrol, and he just flipped me over on my back, and like my arm was just dangling all over the place, and he got me by the bottom of my leg pant leg pant leg, um, and just drugged me. He drugged me out of that classroom, and he asked for help, and because I was too heavy for him, um, and he just dragged me out, and then they another two people helped him, and they got me to one of the medics that was stationed in the hallway, and he did a he was doing a tourniquet on me, and you know getting things started, and then after that um, they carried me to the end of the hallway, past the third grade wing, and while they're taking me, they're discussing um, they're where and how are they gonna take me. So um, they put me on the ground again, and they're talking very loud, and they're like, "Do we put him in the back of a car in a trunk? Do we put him in the bed of a truck? Um, where's the ambulance?" And then finally, they get word that there's an ambulance, so they carry me on the ambulance and put me in the ambulance. Um, no stretcher was ever used. I was in an ambulance on the floor, and every time that they turned or did stuff like that, I would slide throughout the floor. Um, and he would tell me, you know, just keep on talking, buddy. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna make it. You're gonna be fine. Just keep talking. And so I would ask him like, "Are we almost there?" Stuff like that. And he said yes. And then so we get to the hospital, and they're trying to work on me. And you could hear all the confusion, all the chaos that they're going through. They can't find the right equipment. They can't find the right things. And then I tell them that I can't breathe. Um, they do a chest tube on me, and I just, I mean, all the liquid came out of my lung. And then they had put me on a stretcher, and then they told me, "You're flying to San Antonio. You're going to San Antonio to BAMC." And that's when I thought to myself, I might have a chance to make it after all. And so they put me on the helicopter, and I um, I was on the helicopter, and then the lady also told me to keep on talking to her, or do something that I could do to let her know that I was okay. I kept on tapping on some metal bar that was on top of me, and so I just kept on tapping on it. And before I got to the hospital, there I started getting cold, and I told her that I was getting cold, and she covered me with some plastic blanket, and so yeah. Then we got to the hospital, and then I signed myself in. I don't know how, but I signed the agreement to surgeries and stuff, and I didn't know until the next day I woke up. Yes. Yeah. It gets me angry, and I do call them cowards because that's what they are. Um, and I mean, I think later on everybody knows what happened because of the videos that came out. Um, some of them said that they want to get clapped. Some of them said that they wanted to go home at the end of the day. But these, I mean, these students wanted to go home that day too. Um, and knowing now what um, that two of my students did have heartbeats when they pulled them out. I mean, that gets me more angry knowing that they could have saved at least two of my students, and they could have saved the little girl that spoke out, um, and Miss Mireles, who was calling her husband at the time, could have been saved as well. So, they could have saved at least three people. I mean, that I know, four people. Um, it just makes you angry, you know. Um, as teachers, you do build that camaraderie. Miss Mireles, I knew her for years because we worked at the same university. We did work study together. Um, yeah, so I mean, I knew her, very well, and um, when her child was like, 4 or 5 years old or whatever, she was little. Um, yeah, and like I knew her when her daughter was little, and so it's like to see her now is like wow, But yeah, so you do build relationships with these, um, with the other teachers that you work with. Yeah. For the first 3 days, we didn't talk about it. Um, my family, there, you know, that was there. We didn't talk about it. I was afraid to ask what had happened, who had passed away. So I was kind of, I guess, defending myself, like in not knowing would be best, because I mean it already had it hurt, and so for the first 3 days, after that, we didn't discuss it, and then finally I asked my mother, um, how many of my students had died, and she told me all of them, which was 11. And I I mean I was just in disbelief because I had made it, and they didn't. So I mean, I was just in disbelief that they didn't make it. Um, and so yeah, that's when the anger and um, all of that came about, against the police officers and stuff like that. And then I, started watching the news and seeing how big of a deal it was, and not knowing, you know, that it was being covered throughout the world. It was a big thing. It was a you know, big ordeal, and so yeah. So that's when I found out that this is something big, and finding out the total amount of students, and finding out the two teachers that had passed away. So um, yeah, it just made me angry that they didn't go in on the first time that you know that they negotiated with him. It would have been different. Um, the first 2 days, I mean, I had 24-hour security outside my door, Texas Rangers, um, just people coming in and out, FBI, um, just all kinds of people, and asking me, what happened. And I would tell them my story. I would tell them, this is what happened. And so, yeah, and they would come and ask me other questions. Did you know this guy? No, I didn't know him. Stuff like that. But I did have FBI. I mean, you name it, I had it there. And and I know I had asked for my wallet and for my cell phone because I know that they were there in that classroom. Um, and they took maybe about 2 weeks to give me back my phone. Uh, and then they gave me my phone back, and then they went back and asked for it because they were gonna dump it, and I guess try to get information from my phone. For what reason, I don't know. Um, so yeah, they they came in and asked me all these questions and everything. Yeah. Um, Bamsi did give me a counselor. Um, I want to say on the third week, going in, I did get a counselor there um, that dealt with trauma with victims of guns being shot at. So yeah, I did get offered that, and then as I left the facility, I started seeing another counselor um, through my workman's comp. So I still see him um, to this day. I have you know meetings with him. So yeah, I do go to counseling. Do find it beneficial because in the sense that I get to express and tell somebody else that you know how I feel. Um, and I guess I mean you would know that being from the Hispanic culture, we don't really talk about things. It's usually let's move on, let's get over it, let's you know we're macho, we're let's go, let's just move on. Um, and you know I guess being educated and seeing how counseling can help, I I I wanted the counseling because I mean I can't talk about this to my family really because they've already been traumatized enough as it was, and um, so in that sense it's helped tremendously. That I mean I'm able to freely talk about this and tell them about it. So yeah. Well, the first year, I would say every day. It's gotten better to the sense this second year, you know, maybe 3 or 4 times out of the week now. Um, and I I would say that it's come to that because I've gotten myself to be busy. Um, to do other things, and working with my counselor, we set goals and stuff, where I can become a functioning person in the community, um, you know, and be able to advocate for my students, to be able to do things like that, you know, um, so that kind of helps a lot, you know, doing activities, and it's helped a lot. Yeah, when I see police cars, I hear sirens, helicopters. Um, if I see balloons, uh, it makes me just cringe because just knowing this loud sound that they make when they pop is just like, I don't want to hear it. Like, I feel like if I hear it pop, it's gonna throw me off. It's gonna make me freak out. Um, just like that, or when people like just rev their engine so fast, and like a lot of that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's it's hard for me to be in the dark. So I had to sleep with some light on because of the fact that it was dark in my room, and so like I'm afraid to see shadows and stuff like that. So I would say, yeah, it's changed me as a person. It's changed who I am. My identity was a teacher. You know, going to work every day, and so it's affected me in that sense. Um, I mean, I didn't have big dreams like to become a superstar or something like that, but I mean, every day my goal was to help the kids every day. Um, to not being able to do that, you know, had hurt me so much. It's like I've lost my identity, but I'm working on other things and other aspects, um, focusing on different things now in my life that um, to help people, help other people benefit from my experience. You know, so it's just turned my direction, I guess, now of what the rest of my life probably will be like. Yeah, yeah, of my identity. You know, you become you. I was a teacher. Yeah, so the happy person. I'm still trying to get back to that place. And I have my days where I can be happy, but I have those bad days where it just tears me up. But sometimes, like I, 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 I'll tell myself and I'll say, you know what? I don't know if they would want me to be like this. These kids knew um, how happy I was, how just you know I would joke with them. I would, it's just they knew my personality, and so I know that they wouldn't want me to live like this forever. And it's just I try to remind myself that I gotta do it for them too. Not just myself, but I do it you know in their honor. And a lot of things that I do now is um, in the honor of the 21. So um, and I've said this at the beginning, there is probably no amount of training that will ever ever prepare you for something like this. I don't care how prepared you are if you do these kinds of practice runs. If you do, I just don't see it happening where you'll ever be ready for something like this. Um, and I would say, us as teachers, um, them as law enforcement, there's nothing. I don't think there's going to be any amount of training that they can do, that I mean, or that we can do that's ever going to prepare us for something like this. Um, I know we can say so many things like, but unless we get or control that type of a weapon, I call it weapon of war because that's what it is. Um, get control of it or get rid of it, uh, things are not going to change. I I don't see myself in a classroom again. Um, I if I would go back into a classroom and this kind of thing would happen again, I don't know what I could do with myself. So, um, in the sense that I would be responsible for 20 20 other lives, and parents, you know, expecting me you know, to protect their child. Um, it's a hard decision. And being stuck in four walls and not being able to escape something like that, um, I don't see it happening. So yeah, it's sad, and I guess the sad reality of this is like, you know, that it's a profession where you can go to die. That's it's not, you know, um, the reality. I mean, of that is mind-boggling. That you go to school, you go to a school to learn and to teach, but you can also pay the price. uh, You know, um, so it's I don't think it's worth it. Um, I have not gone to a movie theater. Like again, that's dark for me. Shadows, no. Um, I've gone, I've gone grocery shopping. I've gone to um, art supply stores, and stuff like that. I've done some of those things, but of course, I'm very careful of what time I go to these locations, um, or and stuff like that, because um, like if I ever go to, let's say, Walmart, um, I'll try to go as early as possible, because my thinking is that if somebody that's unstable, or not, or mentally ill, um, they might have stayed up late and are asleep at the time, and so they wouldn't be going to those locations, you know, at 8 o'clock in the morning, or 9 o'clock. So like when I try to do my activities, as that is mostly early in the mornings, um, and so yeah, I'm pretty much, I'll go get my stuff really fast and just go and and pay and leave. Um, but the with the pandemic, you know, we have all these other services, and I use those services a lot. You know, Favor and DoorDash and stuff like that, to get a lot of my stuff. You know, Amazon Prime. You know, so I'm glad that those things exist now because yeah, it is hard for me. So, you know, some days I don't want to get up early in the morning because I had a long day. Um, I had a long day, you know, maybe it was a bad day, so I'll sleep late or I feel restless or whatever. And so I'll have to use those services as, you know, um, as a backup and get things done. I mean, I when I'm having a bad day like that, I will sit and just let it all out. I will cry it all out. I will, if I have to yell, I have to scream, I have to do something like that. I will do it. I will not. I mean, I'm here in my own home, so I can yell. I can ask, you know, why. Just anything that will help me release the pressure in my chest that I have. So, you know, that hurts my heart, right? So, I mean, I will let it out, you know, and that does tend to help me, uh, help me a lot. And so I will do stuff like that, you know. I think that's a hard thing to say because I think that, you know, we're all different. Um, you know, as you know, some people are stronger than others. But what has helped me is my, you know, my relationship with God, um, my family. You know, just try to, I guess, like for me, I would say, you know, I try to think about all the good times that we had together. Um, so I like try to get away from the negative thoughts of like, you know, that they're gone, but remember all the happy times that you had together. Um, and that gets me through a lot, you know. Um, just the funny things that we did, the things that um, they talked to me about and stuff like that. So um, just, you know, take your time. It it's gonna happen. You know, you're gonna heal. It may not go away, but you'll be stronger in the end. You'll be stronger. Available here. Well, after the tragedy, the massacre, um, they've opened quite a few offices. I think there's like two of them, but again, from my understanding and talking to people, those resources are not used as much. And again, I will take you back to where I said, you know, Uvalde is a Hispanic community of 85, 85 to 90% Hispanic, um, and the 10 or 15 other being white or other. So I don't see that they're using that resource often, or I don't hear about them using it unless they don't want to talk about it. But um, there's been people that have come into the community that have asked me, well, what do you think is going on that people are not getting help? So then that leads me to believe that they're not using those resources that are being provided, you know, in the community. So I've become an advocate for gun safety, for gun violence. Um, so right now I can I'll see myself as that. I do fight for that, um, for justice for the kids, and so yeah, I see myself as an advocate, and right now, yeah, I mean I do believe that America has become desensitized, um, and of course their thinking is it'll never happen here. That was my thoughts. That's many of our thoughts. It won't happen here, um, and it it really won't affect I guess affect you until you live through it, until you go through it. So I think America needs to wake up, and they need to realize it can happen anywhere, anytime. If those guns are available, um, those types of guns, and I say those types of guns because I am not against guns. I'm against those kind of guns. You see, so because we live in a rural area, we need some protection, yes, but you don't need that kind of gun, you know. So, but yeah, I think America needs to wake up. Stop playing around and stop saying or stop using that. You know, we had the Second Amendment, whatever. Yes, I agree on that. You have the right to bear arms for protection, for your home, for your family. But again, that is a weapon of war. That is shouldn't be allowed. Um, you know, it's not meant to be here. So I think I would you know advise people that are listening, people that care. Get involved. Um, we've uncovered so much in our own community after May 24th. Corruption. There's corruption in your local politics. There's corruption everywhere in your school district, everywhere. Just get involved. Get to know what's going on in your community. It may not affect you, but it may affect your neighbor. It may affect a relative. It may affect somebody that you care about. Um, you know, People always say our thoughts and prayers are with you, and as nice as that sounds, we need to see more action. The thing that you pray about, you pray for healing. Okay, don't just pray for the healing. Go out there and do the action. Go and help somebody heal. Don't just say, you know, our thoughts and prayers are with you. We hope that you heal. No, go out there, reach to them, help them heal. Don't sit there and just do nothing. We can never be, we can never fix it if we don't do anything. Like, just be proactive of everything. Be proactive, be vigilant, see what's going on, stay involved in, you know, all parts of your community, the government. you know, we got to wake up. We got to wake up, and we got to face the truth that, you know, this can happen to anybody. It can happen anywhere, and we just we need to wake up. I do have a store. Yes. Okay, well, I had the store prior to May 24th, and it was just something that, I found my interest. I've always loved to do plants and gardening and stuff like that. So I I came across a building that was, a few blocks away from my house, and so I said, let me just buy this building, right? And it was just a crazy thought, and I'm like, I'm gonna open a nursery here, a plant nursery, and so that's what I did, and so um, ordered plants, went and bought pottery, that's imported from Mexico, and just a lot of things, just like that. So yeah, I did all of that, and everything was great. Um, we were about to complete the first year anniversary in June, and then this happened, and my whole life just stopped. Um, I closed down the store because there was no way that I was gonna be able to have all those plants survive, and I needed the help, and so we sold everything. We sold everything, all our merchandise and all our plants and all our stuff. We sold everything, and then um, and saved that money, and then as I recuperated here for a whole year, I you know I sat here and just went through everything, all the healing that I could, and in July of last year, I told my family I need to open up the store again because I need something else other than these four walls. And so they agreed and they said, "We'll help you. We'll help you open the store and we'll help you with everything that you need." So, with my mom and my sister on board, we decided to go off on that journey again. And so, yeah, as you can see, all the plants behind me. um, yeah, so yeah, we have plants, and that's what keeps me busy, and that helps a lot with my therapy. So um, yeah, so I mean, if you're going through a hard time, find a hobby that you really like. I propagate and I start from seeds. I do a lot of things like that, so that helps me a lot in that. So yeah, so we do have all kinds of plants, and a lot of them we get from California. So um, we do that, and then yeah, and then our pottery. Yeah, it's in your backyard. I wish I lived closer so I can just go pick them up. But yeah, it's something that does bring happiness to me, and um, it's almost and it's kind of like I also get to educate people. So I'm still a little bit of teacher there, I guess. Educate the people on the plants. How will it survive? What do I need to do if it's not doing too well and stuff like that. People will ask me those kinds of questions, and um, so it's rewarding in that sense. Yeah. Arnie's. I don't have one. I don't know if all the things that I have I can ship out. So yeah. Yes, right here in Uvalde, Texas. Yes. Yeah, hit this store. Yeah, well, they can follow me on Facebook. They can find me on Arnie's Nursery and Gifts. Um, I'm on Facebook, and so yeah, and I do have some people that will ask me about shipping. I've only shipped like a couple of items, but of course they pay for the shipping, and so it gets kind of pricey, but they really want something from my store. So yeah, if they want to look me up on Facebook, I'm there, and so we can work. What was what? Oh, Arnie's Nursery and Gifts on Facebook. Mhm. And I just want to thank you too because it helps me get my message out there, and it helps, if it helps one person, I'm glad that it did. So I want to thank you for inviting me.